kept my eyes on the floor tiles as the child approached. Each footstep echoed through the palace corridor, light and curious, nothing like the measured pace of her mother. The queen had given me one instruction when she assigned me to shadow detail. Never meet the princess's eyes directly. No explanation, no context. Just the command, delivered in that voice that made seasoned warriors check their weapon safeties. The footsteps stopped 3 feet from my position. "You're the new guard," not a question. Her voice carried the musical quality of her species, each word resonating at frequencies that made human ears ache if you weren't careful. "Why won't you look at me?" "Protocol, Your Highness. Mother's guards look at me. I follow different protocols." Silence stretched between us. I could see her shadow on the polished stone, small and still, waiting, testing. "Are you afraid of me?" she asked. The question landed like a blade between ribs. Honest answers were dangerous in royal courts, but lies were worse. "I'm cautious, Your Highness. That's not the same thing." "No, it isn't." I could smell the strange floral scent that clung to her kind, something between cinnamon and ozone. My hand didn't move toward my weapon. That would be an insult. But every nerve in my body screamed awareness. Mother says humans survived because they knew when to run. Another step. "Is that what you're doing? Running while standing still?" "I'm doing my job. Your job is to protect me." Her shadow shifted. She was looking up at where my face would be if I met her gaze. "How can you protect me if you won't even look at me?" Before I could answer, the queen's presence filled the corridor like a pressure change before a storm. I felt her before I heard her, that particular weight that powerful beings carried. The princess stepped back immediately, her shadow retreating. "Kira." The queen's voice held no anger, just absolute command. "Go to your chambers. But mother, now." The princess left without argument. Small feet, quick steps, fading into the palace depths. The queen waited until the sound disappeared entirely. "Walk with me, Sergeant Hayes." I fell into step 3 paces behind her, eyes tracking the hem of her ceremonial robes. The fabric shifted colors as she moved, responding to her moods in ways I'd learned to read over the past month. Currently, deep blue shot through with silver. Contemplation mixed with concern. We walked in silence through corridors that could swallow buildings, past windows that opened onto alien skies. The palace had been built for beings twice human size, and the architecture never let you forget it. I felt like an insect navigating a cathedral. The queen stopped at an observation deck overlooking the capital. Lights spread below us like bioluminescent coral, buildings that grew rather than were built, pulsing with their own rhythms. "You didn't answer her question," the queen said. "I wasn't sure which answer you wanted me to give. The truth would suffice." I considered my words carefully. "Then yes, Your Majesty, I am afraid. But not for the reasons she thinks. Explain." "Your Highness asked for a human guard specifically. You gave me protocols your own guards don't follow. You've stationed me in positions where I observe the princess but rarely interact with her directly." I paused, weighing each word. "You're not protecting her from external threats. You're protecting her from herself. Or protecting others from her." The queen's robes shifted to midnight blue. I had said something that pleased her, or at least confirmed something she'd suspected. "My daughter is 7 years old by your calendar," she said quietly. "Do you know what that means for my species?" "No, Your Majesty." "It means her abilities are beginning to manifest. Telepathy. Empathic projection. What you might call psychic influence." The queen turned to face me, and I kept my eyes carefully on her collarbone. In another year, she will be able to rewrite a person's thoughts with a glance. In 2 years, she could make you believe you've lived an entirely different life. In 3, she could make you kill everyone you love and thank her for the privilege. My blood went cold. "She doesn't know," the queen continued. "She feels different, knows something is changing, but she doesn't understand what. That ignorance is the only thing protecting everyone around her." She paused. "Your species has no natural defenses against psychic influence. That makes you vulnerable. But it also makes you useful." "How?" "Because you can't be enthralled if you never meet her eyes." "Because your fear makes you careful. Because if my daughter accidentally kills you, it will teach her the consequences of her power before she kills someone I cannot afford to lose." The queen's voice remained perfectly level, as if discussing weather patterns. "You are a test, Sergeant Hayes. A sacrifice that might save thousands. I should have been angry, should have felt used, disposable. Instead, I felt the cold clarity of understanding settling into place. Will she survive this? I asked. Learning what she's capable of? The Queen's robes flickered between blue and deep red, pain carefully controlled. That, she said, depends on whether anyone survives long enough to teach her. The princess found me 2 days later in the Eastern Garden, where I'd been assigned to maintain perimeter security while she studied with her tutors. She approached from the left, her footsteps deliberately heavy on the gravel path, announcing herself, learning to accommodate the humans who couldn't sense her presence naturally. You're thinking very loudly, she said. I kept my eyes on the fountain ahead, watching her reflection in the water. Didn't know humans could project thoughts. But your fear tastes different now. She sat on the bench 10 feet from my position, arranging her robes the way she'd been taught. Royal deportment, even at 7. Before you were afraid of making mistakes. Now you're afraid of me. No point in lying. Yes, why? Your mother explained some things about what I'm becoming. Not a question. The princess looked at her hands, turning them over in the alien sunlight. The tutors won't meet my eyes anymore either. The servants request transfers. Even mother keeps her distance now. She paused. Am I a monster? The question hit harder than it should have. I'd been trained to maintain professional distance, to see assignments as objectives rather than people, but something in her voice cut through that training, raw and young and terrified. No, I said firmly. You're a child learning to control something powerful. That's not the same as being a monster. How do you know? Because monsters don't ask that question. Will you still guard me, even knowing what I might become? About being a test, a potential sacrifice. About the weight of power that this child would carry and the isolation it would bring. Yes, I said. Why? Because everyone deserves at least one person who won't run away. Her reflection in the water tilted its head. You're strange for a human. I'm strange for anyone. A sound that might have been a laugh. Then, Mother says humans are dangerous because you make terrible decisions for noble reasons. She says it makes you unpredictable. Your mother's probably right. She usually is. The princess stood, brushing imaginary dust from her robes. Thank you, Sergeant Hayes, for not running. And for answering honestly. She walked back toward the palace, steps light again, some weight lifted. I watched her reflection until it disappeared from view. That night, the Queen summoned me to her private chambers. The room was smaller than I'd expected, furnished simply. Maps covered one wall, but they showed territories I didn't recognize. Emotional landscapes, perhaps. Places her daughter would need to navigate. She spoke to you in the garden, the Queen said. Yes, Your Majesty. I heard what you told her. About monsters. That was kind, also foolish. She will remember those words. They will shape her. The Queen's robes shifted to amber. Uncertainty. You've given her hope that someone might accept what she becomes. If she disappoints that hope, the consequences could be severe. I understand. Do you? The Queen finally looked at me directly, and I met her eyes because she was allowing it, demanding it. My people execute children who lose control of their abilities. We have to. The alternative is watching them accidentally enslave entire populations, rewrite civilizations, turn cities into extensions of their will. Kira is royal, which means her powers will be stronger than most. If she fails to learn control, why hire a human guard if you might have to kill her? Because humans have something my people lost millennia ago. The Queen's expression was unreadable. You believe in redemption, in second chances, in fighting against impossible odds for stupid reasons. She turned back to her maps. If anyone can survive long enough to teach my daughter mercy while she learns power, it might be a species too stubborn to accept that some things are inevitable. You're not preparing me to die protecting her from others. No. You're preparing me to survive her while she learns not to kill me. Yes. The Queen's voice was steady. And if she succeeds, if she learns to control what she's becoming, you'll be the first person in her life who stayed, who didn't run or submit or die. That memory might be the only thing that keeps her human. She paused, metaphorically speaking. And if she fails, then you'll die quickly, and I'll have one less person on my conscience when I execute my own daughter. The Queen's robes went black as void. Either way, Sergeant Hayes, you've already made your choice. The question is whether it saves her or simply delays the inevitable. I should have requested a transfer, should have recognized this assignment for the suicide mission it was. Instead, I heard myself say, When does her training begin? Tomorrow. You'll be present for all sessions. Why? The queen looked at me with something that might have been respect or pity. Because if she accidentally enslaves her tutors, I need someone in the room who can still shoot straight. The training room was deep in the palace, behind shielded doors that could contain psychic energy, or trap it, depending on perspective. 3 tutors waited inside, all wearing specialized visors that limited eye contact while still allowing vision. The princess sat in the center of the room, looking small and nervous. I took my position by the door, weapon checked and ready, eyes on the wall above her head. The head tutor, an elderly male with ceremonial scars marking his face, began the lesson. Today we discuss the nature of will, your will, and the boundary between them. I don't understand, the princess said. You will. The tutor gestured, and holographic images appeared in the air. Diagrams of minds, neural patterns, the architecture of thought. Your people evolved to share consciousness, to merge thoughts, pool experiences, become temporarily one. This ability saved us from extinction when our homeworld's ecology collapsed. We survived by thinking as a single organism. Then why is it dangerous? Because merging requires consent. Forcing the merge is slavery, and you, princess, are approaching the age where you could force it without effort, without intention, simply by wanting someone to understand you. The princess looked at her hands again. That gesture of hers, checking if they'd changed. How do I stop it? You learn to control it, to feel the difference between invitation and invasion. The tutor's voice grew harder. Today you will practice on willing subjects. You will learn what it feels like to touch another mind, and you will learn to pull back before you go too far. Would volunteer for that? The 3 tutors stepped forward in unison. We would, as we have for every royal child for 3,000 years. I watched the lesson unfold, careful to observe without directly viewing the princess. The first exercise was simple. She was to sense the emotions of the nearest tutor without attempting to change them. Just observe. Learn the landscape. Within 30 seconds, the tutor collapsed, screaming. Medical staff rushed in immediately, sedated him, carried him out. The princess sat frozen, hands shaking. What happened? She whispered. The head tutor's voice remained calm despite his colleague's absence. You observed too deeply, went from sensing emotions to experiencing his memories. He felt you in his mind, invasive and overwhelming. The psychic equivalent of someone rummaging through his organs while he was awake. I didn't mean to. Intention is irrelevant. Control is everything. The tutor gestured to his remaining colleague. Again. The second attempt lasted 2 minutes before the female tutor went rigid, her eyes rolling back. Different reaction, same result. Psychic shock, defensive shutdown. They carried her out too. Now only the head tutor remained, and the princess was crying silently, shoulders shaking. I can't do this, she said. I hurt them. I keep hurting people. You will hurt many more before you learn. That is the price of power. He positioned himself before her. Again, no. The princess's voice cracked. I won't. You will. Because if you don't learn control, you'll hurt everyone eventually. Better to hurt those of us who volunteered, who understand the risk, than to accidentally enslave someone you love. The princess looked up at him, and I saw her truly frightened for the first time. Not of others' fear, but of herself. I don't want this power, she whispered. Neither did your mother. Neither did I, when I was your age. The tutor knelt, bringing himself to her level, eyes still covered by his visor. But we don't choose what we are, princess, only what we do with it. 3 times she touched his mind, and 3 times she went too deep, too fast, overwhelming his defenses. But the 4th time, something changed. I saw it in the way she paused, in how her hands stopped shaking for just a moment. She'd felt the boundary, touched it without crossing it. Then she crossed it anyway, and the head tutor collapsed like his colleagues, but he was smiling when they carried him out. Progress, he whispered. That night, I found the princess on the same observation deck where the queen had explained my purpose. She sat on the railing, feet dangling over a drop that would kill her instantly, looking at the lights below. I stayed by the door, ready to move if she started to fall, but otherwise giving her space. They'll all leave eventually, she said without turning. The tutors, the servants, everyone. Even Mother keeps her distance now. She paused. Everyone except you. Why? Why stay when you know what I could do to you? I thought about how to answer. Truth was required, but which truth? Because I've seen monsters, Your Highness. Real ones. Beings who chose to hurt others, who enjoyed the pain they caused. You're not that. Yet. Ever. I kept my voice firm. You're a child learning to control something dangerous. Like a human child learning not to bite or hit or hurt others in anger. The power is different, but the lesson is the same. She turned to look at me, and I carefully shifted my gaze to the railing beside her. Humans hurt each other too? Constantly. We're violent by nature, aggressive, territorial. We've committed genocides over skin color, religious differences, resources, sometimes just because we could. I paused. But we've also learned to build civilizations despite that violence, to create laws, ethics, systems that contain our worst impulses. You can learn too. What if I can't? Then I'll still be here. Then, you're either very brave or very stupid. Your mother said the same thing, though she phrased it differently. She likes you. She wouldn't waste honest words otherwise. I'm honored. She's killed people for less. The princess pulled her feet up, turning to face forward properly. Safer. Will you train with me tomorrow? I'll be there. Even though I might hurt you. Especially because of that. Someone needs to show you that accidents can be forgiven. She nodded slowly. Then, Sergeant Hayes, when I learn to control this, will you finally look at me? The question carried weight beyond its words. A child asking if she'd ever be safe enough to be seen, to be treated normally, to be more than a threat people managed. Yes, I promised. The day you prove you can hold back, I'll meet your eyes directly. That's a promise. I'll hold you to that. She left the railing then, walking back into the palace with something that might have been hope in her steps. I waited until she was gone, then let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. The queen emerged from the shadows near the door. Had been there the whole time, listening. That was a dangerous promise, she said. All the important ones are. If she succeeds in controlling her power and you break that promise, the betrayal might undo everything she's learned. Then I won't break it. The queen studied me with those ancient eyes. You actually believe she'll succeed? Yes. Why? That fear is her foundation. It'll keep her careful long enough to learn control. I met the queen's gaze directly, and because she has people who refuse to give up on her. That matters more than you think. The queen's robes shifted through colors I couldn't name. My people have a saying, hope is the first casualty of wisdom. We learn to accept what is, rather than dream of what could be. Then maybe you need a species too stupid to know better. Perhaps we do, Sergeant. Perhaps we do. Princess learned slowly, painfully, leaving a trail of injured tutors and shattered confidence in her wake. But she learned. Each day she lasted a few seconds longer before losing control. Each day she felt the boundaries more clearly. I watched every session, weapon ready but never needed, eyes carefully averted. The princess never asked why I was there. She understood. The queen's human insurance policy ready to end the experiment if it went too wrong. On the 32nd day, something changed. The princess touched a tutor's mind and held there, surface level, gentle as breath. She stayed for 10 seconds, then withdrew cleanly. No pain, no invasion. Perfect. The tutor opened his eyes, stunned. Again. And again. 6 times she touched and withdrew, each time clean and controlled. By the 6th attempt she was crying, but this time from relief. I did it, she whispered. I actually did it. The tutors bowed deeply, formal and respectful, recognition of achievement, of potential realized. The head tutor spoke. You have learned the first gate, Your Highness. Surface thoughts, emotional awareness, the shallow waters of consciousness. Well done. How many gates are there? 7. This one took you a month. The next will take 3. He paused. But you've proven you can learn. That's all that matters. The princess looked at me then, and I carefully shifted my gaze to the wall. Sergeant Hayes? Your Highness? For staying. Just doing my job. And I know it. That evening the queen summoned me again. This time she looked tired, her robes a muted gray that suggested exhaustion rather than emotion. She passed the first gate, I said. I know. I was watching. The queen gestured to a seat, and I took it. First time she'd offered. You've done well, Sergeant Hayes. Better than I'd hoped. Just following orders, Your Majesty. Don't insult my intelligence with false modesty. You've become important to my daughter. Necessary, even. She poured 2 glasses of something amber and offered me. 1. That makes you dangerous. I accepted the glass but didn't drink. How so? If something happens to you, if you leave or die or simply give up, the damage to her psyche could be catastrophic.
The queen sipped her drink, watching me over the rim.
You've become a liability I can't afford to lose. I don't plan on going anywhere. Plans are irrelevant. You're human. You have a lifespan measured in decades. My daughter will live for centuries. Eventually you'll age, sicken, die, and she'll have to learn that lesson too. The weight of that settled over me. So what do you want me to do? Prepare her. Not today, not soon, but eventually. The queen's eyes were ancient and sad. Teach her that caring for mortals means accepting their impermanence, that love and loss are inseparable, that the people who matter most are often the ones we can't keep. That's a hard lesson for a child. Yes, but necessary. The queen finished her drink. You asked earlier if she would survive learning her power. The answer is yes, if she learns this other lesson too. Power without loss leads to tyranny. She must understand both. I finally drank, the liquid burning sweet down my throat. You're asking me to break her heart eventually. The heartbreak is inevitable. The queen's robes darkened, but not yet. For now, she needs her victories, needs to believe in her own capacity for control. You'll know when the time comes to teach the harder lessons, and if I refuse, then you're useless to both of us, and I'll assign you somewhere you can't damage my daughter further. No threat in her voice, just statement of fact. Choose, Sergeant. Help her completely, or leave now before you matter too much. I thought about the princess on that railing, asking if anyone would stay, about her tears when she finally achieved control, about the promise I'd made to meet her eyes when she was ready. I'll stay, I said, for as long as I can, and I'll teach her whatever lessons she needs, even the ones that hurt. The queen nodded slowly. Then you're braver than I thought, or more foolish. Time will tell which. The princess progressed through the second gate, learning to share thoughts with willing participants, to communicate mind to mind without overwhelming or controlling. Her powers grew stronger daily, but so did her control. She still scared the servants, still made the courtiers nervous, but she was learning to manage their fear, to project calm instead of unconsciously amplifying their terror. And she was changing, growing more confident, more certain of herself. The frightened child I'd first met was becoming something else, something powerful and aware and carefully controlled. One afternoon she found me in the practice yard, running combat drills. She watched from the sidelines, silent and patient, until I finished. You move differently than Mother's guards, she observed. I toweled off sweat, keeping my eyes on the ground. Human physiology. Different strengths, different weaknesses. Show me. Your Highness? Teach me to fight like a human? She stepped into the practice ring, serious and determined. If I'm going to rule someday, I should understand how different species approach conflict. It was a reasonable request, almost innocent, but I heard the subtext. She wanted to understand the people who feared her enough to hire one as a guard, wanted to bridge that gap somehow. Your mother might not approve. That means she approves of you teaching me. The princess met my eyes, or tried to. I shifted my gaze quickly. Unless you're afraid. Using my own words against me. She was learning politics, too. I grabbed practice weapons, handed her one sized appropriately. Basic stance first. Humans rely on speed and unpredictability rather than strength. We trained for an hour, and she was a quick study. Her species had natural grace, and she applied it to combat forms easily. But more than the physical training, I watched her learn restraint in a different context. How to pull strikes, control force, interact physically without hurting. Why do humans fight so much? She asked during a break. Lots of reasons. Resources, territory, ideas. Sometimes just because we're angry and don't know what else to do with it. That sounds exhausting. We've been trying to outgrow it for millennia. I adjusted her grip on the practice blade. Some of us succeed, some of us don't. Which are you? Honest as always. I appreciate that. Your Highness, call me Kira, at least when we're alone. She blocked my next strike cleanly. Everyone else calls me Princess or Highness or Your Majesty. Just once I'd like to hear my actual name. Protocol said no. Common sense said no, but something in her voice made me reconsider. All right, Kira. The smile that crossed her face was genuine and unguarded. For just a moment, she looked like any 7-year-old given something they wanted. Then the moment passed, and she was the careful princess again. We finished training as the sun set, painting the sky in colors that had no names in human languages. She was exhausted but satisfied, the kind of tired that comes from honest effort. Same time tomorrow, she asked. If your studies allow. I'll make them allow. Sergeant Hayes, I've been practicing the third gate.
Learning to share memories.
Would you let me try with you when I'm ready? Every instinct screamed warning. Letting her into my mind, even controlled, was dangerous beyond measure. But I'd promised to help her learn, and this was part of that learning. When you're ready, I agreed. And when your tutors say it's safe. She nodded, accepting the conditions, and left. I stood in the practice yard long after she was gone, wondering what memories I'd share when the time came, which parts of being human I wanted her to understand. The Queen found me there an hour later. She asked to practice on you, she said. Not a question. Yes, you agreed. Yes, fool. But there was approval in her voice. You understand what that means? She'll see everything. Your fears, your past, your reasons for being here, every memory, every thought, every secret you've kept. There's no hiding in a memory share. I know. And you'll allow it anyway. She needs to understand humanity from the inside. Not just from observation. I met the Queen's eyes. If sharing my memories helps her understand why we act the way we do, why we're violent and compassionate and contradictory, then it's worth the risk. The Queen studied me for a long moment. You're in love with her. What? She's a child. I would never... That kind of love. The Queen's voice was gentle, almost pitying. You love what she represents, the possibility of change, of something powerful learning to be gentle. You see her success as redemption for your species' failures. She paused. That's why you'll let her into your mind, because you want to believe that understanding can bridge the gap between species, between fear and trust. I had no answer to that, because she was right. Just remember, the Queen continued, that love makes us vulnerable, and vulnerability is dangerous when dealing with beings who can rewrite your thoughts with a glance. Be careful, Sergeant Hayes. Your nobility might be the thing that destroys you both. She left me with that warning, and I stood in the gathering darkness, wondering if I'd already made a fatal mistake. 3 months later, Kira mastered the third gate. The tutor certified her ready to attempt controlled memory sharing, and I was summoned to the training room. She sat in the center, nervous but determined. I took the seat across from her, finally allowing myself to look at her face properly. She'd grown in the months I'd known her. Still a child, but with hints of the ruler she might become visible in her bearing. Are you sure about this? She asked. Are you? I think so. I've practiced with the tutors dozens of times. I can control the depth and duration now. But their memories are, she searched for words, expected. I know what my people think, how we see the world. I want to understand how you see it. You might not like what you find. I know, show me anyway. I nodded, and she reached out, not physically but mentally. I felt her presence at the edges of my consciousness, gentle as morning light. Testing, seeking permission. I lowered my defenses, what few a human had against psychic intrusion, and let her in. The first memory she touched was recent, the moment I'd promised to look her in the eyes when she proved her control. I felt her surprise at the depth of sincerity in that promise, how much I'd meant it. Then older memories. Basic training. Learning to kill efficiently, to follow orders without question, to see other beings as targets rather than people. She recoiled from those memories, disturbed by the casual violence. Deeper. My reasons for enlisting. A human colony destroyed by raiders, my family among the dead. The hollow anger that came after. The need to do something, anything, to make it mean something. She pulled back suddenly and I gasped, the disconnection jarring. Her face was pale, shaken. You've killed people, she whispered. Yes, lots of people.
Why?
Because at the time, I thought it was necessary. I held her gaze, realized I was holding her gaze. When had that happened? Because I was young and angry and didn't know better ways to handle pain. Do you regret it? Not all of it. I paused, choosing words carefully. The universe is complicated, Kira. Sometimes violence is necessary, sometimes it's not. Learning the difference is part of becoming wise. Is that why Mother hired you? Because you understand violence? Partly. Also because I understand its cost. I leaned forward. You saw my memories. You know what killing does to the killer. That's a lesson your people might have forgotten. But humans never can. We carry our violence with us, let it shape us, become it if we're not careful. Then, thank you for letting me see. Did it help? I think so. I understand better now. Why humans fear power, why you're so careful around me. She stood, steadier now. We're not so different. Your species carries the weight of what you might do. I carry the weight of what I might become, both of us trying to be better than our nature. Yes. Sergeant Hayes? Look at me. I met her eyes directly for the first time since we'd met. They were golden, flecked with colors I couldn't name, and utterly clear, no compulsion. No invasion, just a child looking at someone she trusted. Thank you, she said again, for keeping your promise. Then she left, and I sat in the training room, realizing that something fundamental had shifted. She didn't need me to look away anymore. She'd learned enough control that direct eye contact was safe, which meant my purpose was changing. I was no longer just insurance against her losing control. I was becoming something more dangerous, a friend. The Queen summoned me that night, and I knew she'd been watching the memory share. I had seen everything Kira had seen, felt every emotion I'd tried to hide. You're compromised, she said without preamble. Yes. You care about her beyond professional duty? Yes. That makes you a liability. I know. The Queen paced, her robes cycling through colors too fast to read. Agitation, unusual for her. I should reassign you. Bring in someone else, someone less emotionally involved. You could. She stopped, fixing me with that ancient stare. Because she trusts you. Because you've helped her achieve in 9 months what takes most royal children 3 years. Because despite every logical reason to remove you, keeping you serves my daughter better. Thank you, Your Majesty. Don't thank me yet. The Queen's voice went cold. You saw the memories she accessed, the violence, the death, the darkness humans carry. If she ever uses that knowledge to hurt others, if she weaponizes what she learned from you, the responsibility will be yours. Every death will stain your soul. The weight of that settled over me like gravity. I understand. Do you truly comprehend what you've done? The Queen leaned close. You've given a psychic predator insight into human psychology, taught her exactly how to manipulate, control, destroy human minds from the inside. If she chooses power over restraint, she'll use your memories as a weapon. She won't. I have history. The Queen straightened, but we're committed now. You'll continue as her guard, her teacher, her confidant, and you'll pray that your faith isn't misplaced. Because if it is, you'll have helped create the monster you thought you were preventing. She dismissed me then, and I walked through the palace halls, wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake. If my desire to help had blinded me to the danger. But then I remembered Kira's eyes when she'd looked at me directly. Clear and controlled and utterly sincere. That had to mean something. Had to be worth the risk. I hoped I was right, because the alternative was unthinkable. The months that followed brought rapid progress. Kira mastered the 4th and 5th gates, learning to project thoughts and even implant suggestions in willing subjects. Each new power came with ethical weight, and she felt it deeply. I could make people love me, she said one afternoon during training. We were in the garden, practicing our combat forms. Just suggest it, and they'd believe it was real, then earning it naturally. Also meaningless. She blocked my strike, countering smoothly. Because you'd never know if anyone actually cared about you, or if you'd just convince them to care. Every relationship would be suspect. Every kindness potentially manufactured. I pressed the attack, making her work for her defense. Real connection requires risk, the possibility of rejection. Without that risk, there's no value in acceptance. Is that why you were afraid of me? Because I could make you care against your will? Partly. Also because I didn't know if I could trust my own feelings around you, whether my loyalty was genuine or influenced. Spun, struck, perfect form. And now? Now I know you're too careful for unconscious influence. If you were manipulating me, it would be deliberate, and you're too honest for that. How do you know? Someone who wanted to control people wouldn't wrestle with the ethics of it. I paused the match, lowering my weapon. You're trying to understand the right path, Kira. That's how I know. She considered that, then asked quietly, What if I make a mistake? What if I hurt someone without meaning to? Then you learn from it and do better next time. That's all anyone can do. Even humans, especially humans, we make mistakes constantly. It's how we've learned most of what we know. She smiled at that, rueful and knowing. Mother says humans are defined by their errors, that you stumble forward through trial and failure. Your mother is perceptive. She likes you. She won't admit it, but I can feel it when she talks about you. Respect mixed with exasperation. I'll take that as a compliment. We resumed training, and I watched her move with confidence she hadn't possessed months ago. She was becoming formidable, not just in power, but in control, in wisdom beyond her years, which made what happened next more devastating. A diplomatic delegation arrived from the Korath Imperium, a rival power seeking trade agreements. The delegation included children meant to demonstrate peaceful intent. Kira was asked to attend the welcoming ceremony to greet the foreign younglings as a gesture of goodwill. She was nervous but prepared. This was her first formal diplomatic function, her first chance to represent her people to outsiders. She'd practiced for weeks. I stood by the door of the reception hall, watching as the Korath children approached. They were tall, crystalline beings, their bodies refracting light in dizzying patterns, beautiful and utterly alien. The youngest Korath child, perhaps 4 by their reckoning, approached Kira directly, extended a manipulator in greeting. Kira took it smiling, projecting warmth and welcome. The child screamed. Every adult in the room moved at once, weapons drawn, voices raised in alarm. I rushed forward, placing myself between Kira and the delegation, weapon ready but not aimed, trying to assess the threat. The Korath child writhed on the floor, its crystalline body fracturing, light bleeding from cracks. Its parents gathered it up, backing away, terror and fury on their alien faces. She attacked, the father roared. Your princess attacked our child. No. Kira's voice was small, horrified. I only wanted to... The queen appeared like thunder given form. Take my daughter to her chambers. Immediately. Guards moved, but I was already there, pulling Kira away from the chaos. She didn't resist, just followed blindly, her eyes wide with shock. We reached her chambers and she collapsed, shaking. I didn't mean to. I swear I didn't mean to. I just wanted to greet them properly, to share welcome the way I do with my own people, and I pushed just a little, just enough to let them feel my sincerity, but their minds aren't like ours, they don't have the same defenses, and I went through them like glass, and now that child is hurt because of me, because I was careless, because I didn't think, Kira, breathe. She looked at me, and for the first time I saw raw terror in those golden eyes. Not fear of others, fear of herself. I hurt them, just like everyone said I would. I became the monster. No, you made a mistake. That's different. Constantly. I knelt, bringing myself to her level. Humans have killed millions through mistakes. Wrong assumptions, poor communication, accidents we didn't anticipate. It's horrible, but it's not the same as choosing to hurt someone. How do I fix this? I don't know if you can. But we start by making sure the child survives, and then you face the consequences honestly. No excuses, no hiding. She nodded slowly, getting herself under control. The door opened, and the queen entered, her face unreadable. Its neurocrystalline structure is severely damaged. It may never fully recover. She looked at her daughter. The Korath are demanding justice. They want you punished, possibly executed. Kira went pale but didn't look away. I understand. What I've spent years trying to prevent. One moment of carelessness, and you've created an interstellar incident, given our enemies ammunition, proven their fears correct. Mother. You will speak to no one. You will use no abilities whatsoever. If I sense even a whisper of psychic energy from you, the consequences will be severe. Understood? Yes, Mother. Kira's voice stopped me. Sergeant Hayes? Are you leaving too? I looked back. She was small again, the confident young woman of moments ago gone. Just a frightened child who'd hurt someone and didn't know how to make it right. I'll be right outside your door, I said. I'm not going anywhere. The relief on her face was heartbreaking. I took up position in the corridor and the hours crawled past. Inside, I could hear Kira crying softly, the sound carrying through the door. Every instinct screamed to comfort her, but orders were orders. She was confined. I was her guard, not her friend. The queen appeared at midnight, her face lined with exhaustion. How is she? she asked quietly. Devastated, terrified, blaming herself. She should. The queen leaned against the wall, suddenly looking every one of her considerable years. The Korath are screaming for blood. Our council's divided. Some want her punished as an example. Others want to defend her as a child who made an innocent mistake. Both positions have merit. I want to protect my daughter. I want to preserve the peace. I want to ensure this never happens again. She laughed bitterly. I want mutually exclusive things, Sergeant. Welcome to leadership. What will you do? What I must. She straightened, authority returning. There will be a formal hearing tomorrow. The Korath will present their grievances. Kira will have to answer for her actions. The council will decide her fate. She's just a child. She's a weapon that fired accidentally. Intent doesn't matter to the people hurt by the blast. The queen's eyes were hard. You of all people should understand that. You've seen war. You know that good intentions don't rebuild destroyed cities or resurrect the dead. She was right, and I hated it. Can I speak at the hearing? I asked. Why would you? Observing her. I can testify to her progress, her sincerity, her genuine efforts at control. And if the council decides that's not enough, that she's too dangerous to live? The queen's voice was razor sharp. Would you still speak for her then? Yes. Even knowing it might mean your death alongside hers? I met her eyes. Yes. The queen studied me for a long moment. You really do love her, not as a man loves a woman, but as... what? A teacher loves a student? A soldier loves a comrade? As someone loves potential realized? As anyone loves watching something beautiful grow despite impossible odds? I paused. She's special, Your Majesty, not just because of her power, but because she cares about using it right. The galaxy needs people like that. The galaxy has no shortage of powerful beings who started with good intentions. The queen's voice was sad. Most of them became tyrants anyway. Power corrupts, Sergeant Hayes. Especially, those who think themselves immune. Then we teach her to be different. This isn't your species, your planet, your daughter. She leaned close. You've invested yourself in an outcome you can't control. That's dangerous, for both of you. All the important things are... She shook her head, something like respect in her expression. Stubborn human. Your species never learns to quit. She left me there, and I resumed my vigil. Inside, Kira had stopped crying. I hope she was sleeping. Hope she found some peace before tomorrow's judgment. The hearing convened at dawn. The great council chamber filled with representatives from a dozen species, including the Korath delegation. Their injured child was there too, wrapped in medical apparatus, its fractured body held together by technology. Kira stood in the center, small and alone. The queen sat on her throne, face impassive. I stood with the guards, silent witness to justice. The Korath father spoke first, his voice resonating with grief and rage. He described his child's injuries in detail, the permanent damage to its neural structure, the life it would never have because of one moment of carelessness. Kira listened, tears streaming silently, but she didn't look away. She owed them that much. Then it was her turn to speak. I have no excuse, she said, voice steady despite her fear. I was careless. I assumed all minds worked like my own species. I didn't verify. I didn't ask permission. I just acted, and someone was hurt because of my ignorance. She turned to the injured child. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix what I broke, but it's true. I'm sorry. The chamber was silent. Then the head counselor spoke. Princess, do you understand the severity of your actions? Yes. Do you accept responsibility for the harm caused? Yes. Then what should we do with you? Whatever justice requires. If that means my death, I accept it. If it means exile, I accept it. If it means living with the weight of what I've done, I accept that too. Her voice cracked slightly. I won't ask for mercy I don't deserve. Your Majesty, does the crown have anything to add? The queen stood, and every being in the chamber felt the weight of her presence. My daughter is powerful. She is also young, learning, and genuinely remorseful. Executing her would satisfy anger but prevent the good she might still do. Exiling her would protect us but abandon our responsibility to teach her better. She paused. I propose an alternative. Intensive training, under constant supervision, with regular evaluations. If she demonstrates continued control and ethical growth, she remains. If she fails, we revisit this conversation. The Korath father spoke, And what compensation for our child? Medical expenses, pain and suffering, future care, all will be provided by the crown. Additionally, the queen's voice softened. I offer my personal oversight of the princess's training. If she fails again, I will execute the sentence myself.
A mother's promise.
The Korath delegation conferred quietly. Finally, the father nodded. We accept these terms. But understand, one more incident, and we will demand full justice. No mercy. No second chances. Understood, the queen said. The counselor stood. Then this hearing is concluded. The princess will continue her training under the conditions specified. This council will reconvene in 1 year to evaluate her progress. Guards moved to escort Kira out, but I stepped forward. I have something to add. Every eye turned to me. The queen's expression was unreadable.
I've worked with the princess for over a year, I continued. I've seen her struggle, fail, and ultimately succeed in controlling abilities that would break most beings.
What happened was tragic, but it was not malicious. She's learning to wield power that most species never develop, and she's doing it with more grace and conscience than I've seen in soldiers 3 times her age. I looked at the Korath father. I know it doesn't heal your child. I know words are inadequate, but I believe she'll be better for this. That she'll learn from it, that someday she might be exactly the kind of leader this galaxy needs. The Korath father studied me. You risk much, speaking for her. Yes. Why? Because she deserves someone who believes in her potential, not just her mistakes. He considered that, then nodded slowly. Humans are strange, but perhaps that strangeness has value. We will watch her progress, human. And we will judge her by her actions, not her words. The hearing ended, and Kira was released to her mother's custody. I followed them back to the royal quarters, silent and thoughtful. The queen stopped at her chambers. Sergeant Hayes, a word. I followed her inside, and she closed the door, shutting out the world. That was dangerous, she said. Speaking on her behalf could have turned the council against you. Against her. I know. You did it anyway. Yes. She shook her head. You're either the bravest human I've met or the most foolish. Possibly both. She poured herself a drink, offered me one. This time I accepted. My daughter made a terrible mistake today. But she also showed something important, the ability to accept consequences without excuses. That's rarer than you think, even among adults. She's stronger than people give her credit for. Yes. And that strength will be tested again. The queen met my eyes. I meant what I said. If she fails, if she hurts someone else through carelessness or malice, I will execute her myself. Mother or not, duty requires it. I understand. Do you? Could you watch her die, knowing you'd spent years helping her grow? The question hit like a physical blow. But I didn't flinch. If she became a genuine threat, if she chose power over conscience, then yes, I'd watch. Because that's what she'd want. She'd rather die than become the monster she fears. The queen nodded slowly. You understand her well. Perhaps too well. She drained her glass. Very well, Sergeant. Continue her training. But know this, I'll be watching both of you. And if I see any sign that your feelings are compromising her development, I'll separate you immediately. Her growth is more important than either of your happiness. Yes, Your Majesty. She dismissed me, and I found Kira in her chambers, sitting by the window looking at the stars. They hate me now, she said quietly. The Korath. Everyone. Others are reserving judgment. What about you? I sat across from her, finally allowing myself to look at her directly. I'm proud of you. She laughed bitterly. Why? I nearly killed someone. I proved everyone right about how dangerous I am. You also stood up and accepted responsibility without excuses. You offered to accept any punishment. You showed more integrity in that hearing than most adults manage in a lifetime. I leaned forward. You made a mistake, Kira. A serious one. But you didn't hide from it. That matters. Does it? That child is still hurt. Yes. And you'll carry that weight forever. But you can choose what to do with it. Let it crush you, or let it teach you to be more careful. More aware. Better. She was quiet for a long time. Then, will you still train me? Even after this? Of course. Why? Aren't you afraid I'll hurt you too? But that's not a reason to stop. It's a reason to keep going. To make sure you learn everything you need to never let this happen again. She smiled. Small and fragile. You're a strange human, Sergeant Hayes. So I've been told. We sat in silence, watching the alien stars, and I wondered what came next. Wondered if my faith in her was justified or foolish. Wondered if there was really any difference between the two.